Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for turning up. Good to see you again. Where did that week go? Where the hell did that week go? I used to hear it all the time, but I don't know how I had time to work before. Quite frankly, I can't have done it. And then all these things I was going to do around the house just haven't happened. Been on the phone to lots of people, speaking to officers who having a bit of problems, and it's always just easier to speak to people on the phone. And if I can help with suggestions or whatever, it can cut a lot of grief. So, but anyway, there's a random picture today. Is that one there? There's always a dog in there somewhere. That's and various hats. One of them, the American one, looks like though it's on me, which is very apt, isn't it? You've got the British and the American one. So we're going to be talking about that, about the shooting of Daunte Wright. Now, I don't know how you pronounce his name because I haven't actually heard anything on him. So Daunte, Daunte Wright. He was a 20-year-old. I have seen the video footage. I'm not going to stick it on because, to be honest, it can copyright, cause problems and whatever. But it's basically, as you can imagine, you can look it up yourself. It's a typical thing where somebody's being detained. There's various police officers. And you could tell that the female officer herself, Kim Potter, is around the periphery initially. It looks like there's no problem. He's being handcuffed to the rear, and then he suddenly wriggles free. He's into the car. And she says, you know, I'll taser you, taser. And of course, it's a Glock. And you can see it's a Glock. And some people are saying, well, how can you mistake that? It's just ridiculous. Well, I tell you what, most firearms officers will know exactly how you can mistake it and what we do in the UK to prevent that happening. Because we realise it's a lot of psychology involved. And we'll need to talk about that later, but very shortly, in fact. I am, just for those who don't know, I'm a retired police officer. I say retired, I was a former police officer, 30 years on armed response and traffic, so over 150 road deaths, and scene managing and investigating, and lots of farm stuff. I was VIP protection officer for the Royals, and I did the protection for the Southwest. I must have been with Duke of Edinburgh approximately 10 times over 15 years. Thoroughly enjoyable days out. That was really good. So a lot of respect for him. If you're a royalist or not, I mean, I know I wouldn't want their job for all the tea in China because I saw what they actually did and what they do, and every penny they spend is like, that's, you know, there's homeless dying. How can you dare go on holiday to Jamaica? How can you dare do this? So would you really want that? Would you like to just, you know, and they go in jets, but it's like a car to them, because the reason they don't go in a convoy with that minimal level of security, which they deserve, they need, because there's enough nutters in the place, to be honest, let alone people, you know, who want to kill them. There's plenty that want to embarrass them and throw paint over the car and all this sort of thing. And part of the protection team is there to look out for that and prevent it before it escalates. But they do one job. They go from wherever they are, get to Devon and Cornwall, one job, and then they'd have to head back. With the helicopter, what they tend to do is land, get a short convoy, small convoy, venue to venue to venue, 5 venues, charities, local businesses. Everyone's a hero. Everyone's brilliant. They treat the very last person with as much enthusiasm as the first. And I said to him, you know, what do you get out of this? You know, it's, oh, you wouldn't believe it. You know, even if the locals, if you know, you're not loyalists, that's something entirely different, but very apt at the moment. If you're not into the Royals or whatever, then one thing, but you know, they really are. There's no fun. I can't see the fun that they're dealing with it, and they are total professionals. And yeah, they go to some quite good gigs and all this sort of thing, but you're having to, can you imagine being them and you're like, right, at 9 a.m. you're going to meet this person, you're going to shake their hand, you're going to move over to them, and they're going to shake this hand, then you're going to be in like a horseshoe of people, and you're going to say, oh, what do you do, and what do you do? And then they're going to go on, and then again, you're going to do all that all day for 4 days in a row. There's no sort of, oh, should we go down the beach? Let's go down the beach. You know, there's no sort of, oh, let's go to the garden centre or whatever, unless you've pre-planned it. So that is work. It's not fun. That's enough about defending the royals, but I'll be watching a bit of the funeral. But yeah, this is about Daunte Wright, isn't it? So just go, I've got a fair bit of experience in that. 23 years in the armed response unit, VIP protection, like I say, and also but mainly on the armed response units in the southwest. And in Devon and Cornwall, we don't have quite the problems of the Met, but we would have 2 or 3 firearms jobs a week. And then we were dual rolled, so we went to all the serious road traffic collisions, all the minor ones as well, but also the fatal road traffic collisions. Anyway, you need a fast car, grey bit of town, 100 miles between, you need to get there quick, and that's what the X5s, BMW X5s, and I had a whale of a time, to be honest. So that's that. I'm going to look at some of the comments very quickly. Oh gosh, loads of comments already. Just before we pile into it, hello. George, never thought GCSE exams would be so stressful. Biology. Oh, we've all been there, my friend. You've just got to get your head down. And at the end of the day, be happy. You can't do any more than you have when you do those GCSEs. You can't do much more than you have, and just go for it. It's horrible, stressful. You need GCSEs. You need one level 3 exam. Like an A-level, that's the equivalent of an A-level, and to get your foot in the door. So it doesn't have to be an A-level, but it has to be the equivalent of that to then be able to go on the next step. When I was a youngster, it was like 4 or 5 GCSEs, including Maths and English. Right, okay. And this is a very apt. Ryan, hi Harry, do you know if she had a taser on the weak side like we do here? Well, remember, weak side, strong side is completely, means depending on whether you're left or right-handed, it depends what you're doing. So your Glock, your pistol, will be, when we started off, the Glock was in a zip and it was in a holster within your QRV vest, your vest. Now it was overt, so you'll find there was a lot of police officers armed before on armed response where you didn't think they were armed. But they were, all right? They were in the vest. And then the long arms and stuff are in huge great safes, and the stun grenades and all the other Gucci stuff is in the boot. Lots of keys, you'd need a good bit of dynamite to get in there, right? So the Glock on my side was right hand side. Part of this reasoning with VIP, I used to be cross draw. I could cross very quickly, I could draw very quickly. I went to cross draw because they changed and said no, everyone's got to be strong side for Glock, and then taser for us was here, all right? And you could have taser otherwise on your belt. I think some people have it, but it has to be weak side. So, if you're left-handed, it was on that side. You train constantly draw. So this would be my average draw. So you're there, the target's turn, and you're there, right? It's flick, and you can gain half a second that way, and you're out. So I was holsters have safety mechanisms in there, at least 2 of them, so you can't just get the gun out there, so they're quite safe. And by that time the officer should have realised what you're trying to do and would have bonked you on the head, which they'd be legitimately able to do, because why else would you want to get the gun out of a police officer's holster? So the UK, first of all, the UK has slightly stricter criteria. So police officers will not shoot someone unless they believe they themselves or somebody else is immediately in danger of death, basically, very, very serious injury or death, and that it's immediate. They can't say, well, I'm going to kill someone in 2 days' time. Bye. You can't shoot him in the back. In America, it seems to be that the basic, if you're running away from the police officers, you can shoot because they're running away. That's different here. That's not the case here. Would have to be very safe. If there was a terrorist, for example, terrorists are completely different ball game, because terrorists have got a mindset already. They're not into negotiation. The time's gone, and luckily society has realised that. And all this is centralised by the College of Policing that give out these sort of policies and procedures and training so that everyone is on the same sheet here. Yeah, you won't get West Mids handling something differently than Devon and Cornwall even. So terrorists, for example, will be, I'll put it blunt, as many rounds as you can to the back of the head, even if they're going around. Description, yes, that's definitely them. Intel is they've got a bomb in the back. You can't say, excuse me, because they could be they can either have a press or a release. So if they are shot, they release the trigger and they explode. A lot of this is from Israel and things like this. Bear in mind as well that if they manage to get you before you get them, it can be an average of 8 deaths per minute that they are causing. So if they take out the first armed response, there's another so many minutes before another ARV turn up. That's a lot of deaths. So at this point, we don't give the priority. We don't give the benefit of the doubt to the person who's chosen to put a bomb in their backpack. However sorry reason they are for doing it, that's irrelevant, putting it bluntly. So it would be imminent shooting to the head to stop the muscle reaction. It's all to do with the nerves in a specific part, to stop them actually pressing it or even involuntary pressing it through death. So luckily, we've not been there yet on that side of things, but as far as bombs and things, God forbid. All the training's there, all the ARVs are ready for that if it needs to be. So that is training. Now, I, many years ago, was in a scenario, and I think every officer has probably come to this close or just about, and you do scenarios, you don't know what they are, and then somebody turns up and you go, oh, right, okay, here's the guy that's been described. Okay, now you're assessing. What's he got in his hands? Nothing in his hands right in the moment. Okay, you're all right, officer. Okay, seems to be fine. Oh, sir, can you just keep your distance? Just keep your distance there. I'm just going to talk to because we've been informed. And then he pulls a big knife and he's coming towards you. All right? Now, knives, if it's coming towards you, I can make it simple and say gun. But knife, coming towards any aggression with a knife, I ain't going to taser him. If he's coming towards me with a knife to stab me, I'm not going to taser him because one barb misses, one barb goes in, nothing. I'm sushi. All right? I'm dead. I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They've chosen to come to me. My life is immediately in danger. Glock. Bang. Right? Now, this was one where he was certainly, the scenario was he was a little bit further off, had a bit of time and space, but I needed to show a bit of force. And I got my gun out, and it was my taser. And I thought, why have I got that out? All right, taser back, Glock. Now I can't be honest with you, I can't tell whether it was the taser because it was a while back, what sides they were. But I would believe the taser was still here and the Glock was there. And it was the scenario. And this is why you discuss things afterwards. Okay, why did you bring your taser out? What do you think? I said, I didn't mean to. I meant to bring the Glock out. So it was the opposite of what we've seen. I didn't pull the trigger because you find that the simunition, the training ones will go la 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 la, but it won't fire a thing. So they know when you've pulled the trigger, And I didn't pull it because I still had a bit of time and space. And if I'd thought, oh, it's the taser and he's coming for me, I'd have just had to pull the trigger on the taser, which would have given me some time to then hopefully both bars would go in. Hopefully his clothing wasn't too thick. And, I would have, if I'd been stabbed through the heart, I'm sure people would have said, well, why didn't he bring his gun out? Because it was a mistake. So you see what I mean? Now, muscle memory, whatever's happened, she was 26 years in the job, was Kim Potter. 26 years. She has gone into position. He is now making his way. Now, UK, that is very unlikely to happen because he probably would have been allowed to drive off and they would have tried to get him afterwards. We don't know what. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we knew what he was being arrested for on the video bit I've seen. It could have been murder, and there was someone seriously at risk or kidnapped or whatever. It's unlikely. They're more rare. Where you think, if he goes, he's going to kill someone and there's nothing we can do about it. And that would be legitimate then to do that. So somebody's mentioned here, the trigger on the Glock is different to a taser. Glock, you feel the safety of the trigger. Safety of the trigger with the pull. The lack of red dots dancing around the target would be a giveaway. I'll stick you under full-on pressure. Something. Go, move, now, too late. You ain't got time for red dots. Most people who are shooting the Glock as a self-defense situation, most of them aren't aiming. They're not aiming. It's too urgent. It's too quick. It's just about, so again, in the UK, it's unlikely to have happened because we don't shoot people for driving away. You'd have driven off and we'd get them again. You know, America seems to be a little bit more, they seem to allow it if you don't run from the police. And that's what we're going to come down to, isn't it? Because the way you can avoid this, you can simply avoid this. You don't run from the police, especially if you're in America. You don't fight the police, especially if you're in America. And then you have just made your chances of living the scenario a million times better. Okay? Because basically, they don't stand you up in the street and execute you. There's usually a massive disturbance, there's struggling, officers, or they're grabbing the officer's gun, or they're trying to get into a car, or they're, running with a knife in their hands or whatever. All right, so that is a difference. There's different situations from the UK, but ultimately you can avoid the whole lot, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. And so there's been 2 days of unrest, and yet nobody says, well, sorry, he's an idiot. Why did he do it? Why did he run away from police officers? Because if you do that enough, with enough scenarios, with enough population, with enough police officers, somebody is going to be human and they're going to get it wrong. And if people think, wait, bang, they think, well, the trigger feels a bit different. Can't see the red dot on them. Too late. And that is muscle memory. And that's why we have weak side for the Glock, weak side for the taser, and taser's up here. There's always a risk, and I remember that time when I did the opposite in a scenario. And it's a brilliant learning thing, and this is why we get this from the forces now a lot more, rather than, oh, right, you're off the department, because if that had been real life, you'd have been dead, or somebody that then they could have killed someone else. Do you know what I mean? But they say, okay, then I knew that could happen. Whenever I went up to scenarios, whenever there was something that was going to need a quick, that's what experience tells you. You're like thinking, okay, taser, Glock, taser, Glock. Just give yourself a little mental memory. It sounds ridiculous, but it's enough to stop those cross wires when someone pushes the button, so to speak, and it goes completely mad. I feel for her completely. She was in tears. The comments she did was, I'll taser you, I'll taser you. She's not looking at what's in her hand. All right? She's looking at the subject, thinking, what's he doing? He's trying to get away. He's trying to get away. All right, I'll tase you. I'll tase you. Taser, taser, taser. And that's exactly the right thing. That's warning other officers around. I am deploying my taser now, so stay out of the way if you don't want to get zapped. Taser, taser, taser. And then her comments were, holy shit, I just shot him. Now, if anybody is saying that she's done it and then covered up and she meant to shoot him, absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. She has been a human being after 26 years of service. And not only her, but the chief police, and this is the counselling world that we live in at the moment. Chief police, Tim Gannon, the rioters, the protesters, they've all, they're the ones organising. They're the ones running the media. They're the ones who are losing police officers their jobs. In this country, if that had happened, they would have been brought offline, front line. Mainly for their own sanity as well. They'd be coming off firearms, and until the investigation was complete. Because once the investigation had taken place, and just say they found them highly negligent, then you wouldn't want them carrying on with a firearm. Remember, in America, it's different. The firearm is a self-defense weapon, unless you're in SWAT or something like that. Yeah, ARVs, armed response, and SFOs, specialist firearms officers, counter-terrorism specialist firearms officers. They are trained in building entries with weapons. They're dealt with vehicle interceptions, with open ground searches. That's just the ARVs. And then you've got the SFOs and they're doing hostage rescue and that side of things. But ultimately, if they're not there, the ARVs will be doing it. So I did a couple of emergency entries myself going into somewhere. I was single crewed with a Glock because I was operational firearms commander, but it was like, I've heard a bang, they think someone's bleeding to death, I've got to go in, so ultimately it comes down to that. But yeah, it's not, I feel for her. She's been a human being, she's distraught by it, and yes, there's a family of Daunte Wright who has lost a 20-year-old lad. Whatever he's done, I don't know, but it could have been avoided. But this thing, do you know what, I'm fed up with this now. I'm fed up with riots happening every time when it's clearly an accident. If you've got any humanity to realise there was no intent. There's no maliciousness in that whatsoever. And now after 26 years, she's got to leave the job for one. But also, it's just the turmoil she's in that she's going to have to live with the fact that she shot someone dead when she didn't mean to. And I just hope that in the riots and things, if there's whatever, I don't know the seriousness of them at the moment, but there's been unrest and whatever, I hope no one else is killed, because the poor girl will think that's down to her as well. And it's not. It's down to the violent protesters, and I'm fed up with it. Fed up where we can't just have a standard, normal inquiry like everybody has, you know, because they're tough enough. I mean, I've had people I know police officers who've shot people dead in my force time. There's 8 people I knew over about 35 years, because it was about 5 years before I joined, and then various other shootings. Some survived, some didn't. And you go through hell. It's the last thing you want. It's the last thing you want. And it's, again, slightly different in America, but it's still stressful. Because ultimately, you go down for murder. And I'm really worried that this is going to be a political lynching run by the mob, basically. Where, you know, time again, I'm thinking, thank God I'm 52. I couldn't bear to be 20 at the moment, the way the world's going. I'm really struggling with common sense and people being led by bullies. You know, because that's all these protesters are. They think, what can we find to riot on now? What can we... Well, I know. Yep, that'll do. Bang! Don't care. You know, it's a bit like the recent protests. Most of them didn't know what the act was about for protests and things. Kill the bill protests and things, you know. Anyway, that's more rants over. Do you know if should... Yeah, so that was that one. Let's answer some of your questions. Yeah. Okay. Charged with second-degree manslaughter. Yeah. I'd have to go into the definition. I mean, technically it may be, but so they have to go through. I mean, in our world here, in this UK here, if you haven't done something with intent or complete neglect or maliciously, then you're okay, because you had a reason for doing it. And if it was accident, they call it. There's accidental discharge and there's negligent discharge. Accident, I don't know, it's all gone down to, has it gone down to negligent discharge? You're negligent. It does happen. Officers are muscle memory. You have to rack the weapon, you know, take the mag out, rack the weapon first. But if they've been a bit busy, mind's elsewhere, and they fire off the mechanism in the sandbank in the armoury. If they haven't been thinking straight, they forget to undo the mag first, so they just rack the weapon, fire it off, and it goes bang. And it goes bang in the safe place. That's relatively common because humans are involved. And if you handle a weapon long enough with a large enough group of people under various stressful conditions, and that's why the training is that whenever you're handling a weapon, you handle it in a safe area, you know, and there's that round, yeah, you'd be able for the high jump, but you'd probably stay on the department if it landed nicely into the sandbank, because at least there was no chance anyone was going to get injured. And all those that have done that, and I haven't been one of them luckily, but all those that have done that, they never do it again, because they just realise every time they unload, it's that real sort of... Because I use it all the time. If people are talking in the army, I'd say, right, I don't talk, I'm concentrating, and I think to myself, even 30 years afterwards, on 23 years after firearms, it was right, mag out, then rack it 3 times, because there should only be 1 round, and if 3 rounds come out, you haven't taken a mag out. Do you see what I mean? It's these safety procedures that we have in to prevent things happening. Right. Can firearms officers tell if someone is holding an air pistol replica, or does all firearms get treated equally? They all get treated equally. Would you, would you trust your life that from a distance wasn't a gun? If I'm saying, I'll shoot you. Would you trust? Are you going to benefit? Given the benefit? No, I'm not. Toy gun, nice black rounding. I'm going. Oh, hang on a minute. Is that? Look, can you just hold it to the side? I just want to see. That gnarling on there. It looks a bit bad quality. It might be a plastic one. No, and that's why on 2 separate occasions there was a guy with a gun, and I knew in my mind, and the red dot is in my scope on my. Yeah, it was MP5 back then, on the inside the scope. It wasn't throwing it out. And I had that, my colleague had that, and we both knew if that went like that, I would have shot immediately, no question. And it was only because he went, okay. And it was only, he did another 10 years for carjacking. So, and another lad, and it was a toy gun, that one, and he just threw it away. But I knew if that came up, I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Better be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Yeah, totally agree, Harry. Don't resist, sort it out at the station, fight, and you're asking for more trouble. Why is it socially acceptable now, it seems to be, by a social media, and a bunch of people on there to say, well, was it really necessary? Well, who had the choice? Treat police officers with a bit of respect. We cannot have a debate and a struggle with everyone we meet. You know? You can't do it. I left a year ago, by the way. That's why I'm here talking to you now. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of speculation, whatever, and that'd be the least of it. So, whether it was warrants or whatever. But the only reason it would make a difference if for us in the UK is if he ran away and he was going to cause immediate harm, that you couldn't then, every method you've tried and tested or would have proved unsuccessful is the sort of terminology we use. So I've tried taser because I had the opportunity. I tried baton gun for big distance. No, he's up. He's coming at me. I've tried negotiation. I've tried safe. Now we're getting into a danger place where he's coming over the line, and this member of public is going to be in danger now. I've tried. It's all been unsuccessful. He's now he's bringing his gun up, and there's no way. Yeah, he's bringing his gun up, and it's a no-brainer then for that one. Right, all handled the same. Imagine right. All handled the same. Imagine an AFO. 1:30 already. So we'll just see how much we do on that. 43 followers on live. That's pretty good. Thank you. All handled the same. Imagine an AFO approaching a situation in confidence that the firearm in question was a replica, and then a member of the public was shot. And some people say, yeah, I mean, why do you expect? Do you think they're robots or whatever? Why the hell? If you're not prepared to walk up to that guy and say, can you give me your toy gun, please? I hope it's a toy gun. And don't ask someone else to do it. Well, they're trained. What? They're not bulletproof. It's and then there is that, and a lot of it is in. It's complete. Well, can't you see this and can't you see that? Many people haven't been put in scenarios. Firearms officers are put in scenarios constantly. 4 days training every 6 weeks, and those will be scenarios for building searches and finding bad people at the end of those building searches, searching every room methodically, doing the right search systems, doing emergency searches, doing slow time searches, deliberate searches they're called, and then you'd be dealing with terrorists, and then dealing with things, and then dealing with just somebody who's angry, and learning how to, and then negotiating with them and seeing how you can handle, because it's not always up there. It's like, right, deal with the scenario, thank you, and you think, well, it just needs to be brought down, gentle. We tried the blades, right, let's just bring it, right, okay, so I'll do, just stay where you are then, and then they're receptive now. Now they're complying, they're doing everything. And I've been able to do that because I've got time and space and no one else is in danger, with this guy with a knife. And now he's dropped the knife. Endex, thank you very much. That was just a test to see how quick you escalated it, if that was the case, or whether you kept control of the whole thing. So incredibly, but the American police, even though very experienced on the side, remember with just a sidearm that they may have, that is just a self-defense weapon that they just go and do once or twice a year in a range. It's a self-defense weapon as such. All right. There's a lot. Okay, thank you, Bob. So guns. I don't know, with America, I think it's just the door's bolted. The horse is bolted. Now they're trying to shut the door on guns. I think it's too late. There's just so many of them everywhere. But can you imagine being a police officer trying to police that? Every place you go to could be the last venue you go to, and we don't have that in the UK yet. So there's a lot of stress there. A lot of stress. And now, if you get it wrong ever, you get standard riots, town getting wrecked, a bunch of civilian mayors or whatever saying, yes, this is terrible because they're getting intimidated by, they're dictating to people how to deal with the police. And that is worrying instead of looking at the facts. Shall we have a look at the facts, for God's sake? That what a novelty. From the being charged with murder by private prosecutor. Yeah, and that's the nightmare for us. Tony Long was involved. I was at a conference for post-incident management stuff that I went on. Tony Long was a police officer in the Met, and he had a series of shootings where he shot, and very completely legitimately. He was in a department that he was thrust out into the danger place many a time. And yet that's the problem. You get now the civil law. So policing now, I would still recommend joining it. I'm struggling to keep my enthusiasm, but they've got to turn this round, because if no one's going to become a police officer if they know they've got to be perfect every minute, every second of the day, every week, every month. If you get something wrong under high pressure intensity, you're going to be dragged across the coals. And my rules are, if it's not completely negligent, malicious or illegal, then you should be all right, and justice should be quick. The investigation should be fast, or it's no justice at all. Fleeing vehicle. So I think, so Tony Long, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, don't point guns at cops and you won't get shot. America's slightly different, where you don't run away from cops. Don't run away from cops, okay? And then accidents won't occur. That would not have happened if he just carried on getting cuffed. Thank you. What are they going to do? Does he think he's never going to get caught again? He's going to disappear into the ether and live happily ever after. I think it's got to turn, and it's got to start educating these people to say accidents are going to occur. To me, that would be the quickest investigation, because it's all on camera. You can see every armed officer, I'm sure, will be able to, of any experience, will be able to say, yeah, complete accident. So what? Should you just... And if it was an accident because she was negligent, like she was playing with a gun in the street and shot someone in the head, then that's one thing, yeah? That's manslaughter, that's whatever. But a mistake like that, not good. There is that, Andrew. Fleeing vehicle is potentially a weapon, but in this country it would have to be more intent than that, immediate danger. We can't just shoot people unless he's got a history of running people over as he drives away, for example, which is probably unlikely. So again, it's quite restrained, and quite rightly so. We can't just say, well, he could have pulled a gun out of his glove box and shot someone, so I shot him. Well, is there any history to show that he carries firearms? No. Okay. Did he have any ability? Was there any opportunity to get a gun? No. Okay. So we don't shoot everyone that drives off from us. But that's no criticism for Kim Potter here, because in America it's a whole different ballgame, and it's very much understood in their legislation that if you run away from cops, then it could end in tears. We won't get too technical. I still have the G36. We did train on the MCX. It hadn't come through to Devon Cornwall at the time. I think it's getting more national. The MCX is different. Long arm. Yeah, very nice weapon. No complaints from that. G36 was... we had trouble with certain sites were awkward buggers, but now in new ones we've got a brilliant. So they were good. High Stand said she was... Oh, right, I won't finish that. Hi, Harry, he says, so I'm saying hi that. In the US, if you resist arrest by trying to flee the scene, it's only going to end up in 3 endings, prison, hospital, or the morgue. Quite right. So, hey, let's not do that, and then you won't have a problem. And let's not take it out on people's businesses and law-abiding people who just want to go about their work by rioting and destroying the place we live in. Start becoming in that, and that's... have more of a no-nonsense approach with that. No excuse, rather than feeding this thing of, they were angry because, they shouldn't be angry. The scenario's there. You need to start growing up a bit now. If a cop has just, if you've got... You can see why there is a court case with George Floyd, because there are certain aspects that need a bloody good look at. Funny how they don't show the whole picture until much later on, because that's the narrative they want to give of a load of murdering cops looking for people, black people to kill, when in fact, whether it was, whether after a long trial they come to that conclusion, or whether there was more likely that he was completely negligent and just probably wasn't a very good police officer, and whether he was white or black, he would have done the same. Whatever, there's going to be so many scenarios that come out. But it's funny how you don't get all the information, isn't it? But there's others that are very clear cut, and in this case, and she's left her job already. She can't probably deal with all the stress and the hate and can you imagine the threats that this poor girl has to put up with? And then the chief has had to lose his job. He's resigned as well. Tim Gannon, chief of police. What's it all about? What's it all about, I tell you? It's the mob ruling. It's the mob ruling. Start doing the facts, and I pray it changes soon, because it's not good enough. It's not a good situation at the moment. He's good. He's a good speaker, is Tony Long. He's a no nonsense, and he literally has been shot at by sawn-off shotguns, which whistled past his head. So if there was ever a reason to shoot back, that was it. I'd love to be in the police, but not woke or a graduate, so won't pass the initial sift. Well, I'm certainly not woke, and I'd say what woke is constantly, as far as I'm concerned, it used to be thinking of others and being more passive to people's differences and things. It's gone from that, isn't it? I think woke is very much, the meaning has sort of changed, and the meaning I will use it as is very much just forgetting reality and just jumping on the next virtual signalling bandwagon you possibly can, so you can feel good in yourself, but actually be disgusting towards those who are actually doing the job that instead of you. There we go. But you don't have to be woke to join the police. Common sense and accountability is what it's all about in the police, and you do learn how to deal with certain aspects over time. It takes a bit of experience. Okay. Same I had to be ARV. There's a few people trying to be ARVs. Remember, you have to be cops first. Very much lots of policing involved. It's not the first time an officer it's not the first time an officer in America shot someone instead of tasering them. Not implying anything, but both females. Yeah, irrelevant. Genuinely irrelevant in this case. It's not going to be the first time. It won't be the last. When you've got the amount of people, get a village. And at some point, you'll get a murderer in there and you'll get a rapist. It's humans. It's human beings. And it's in the police. When you think about it, you've got 30,000 cops in the Met. You've got another, 20,000 civilians or whatever. I don't know. One of them is then going to be found to be in a right-wing bloody thing like this other idiot, who I think it was less than 2 years. You can't, until people have a lie detector on their vetting, some are going to get slipped through. But notice a lot of these are quite early in their careers and they get found out. And guess who they get investigated by? Police. Because police don't want them in there as much as anybody else. So yeah, it will happen again. It's this unrealistic expectation where you've got human beings involved. They're going to act like robots and get it, and computers that don't exist, where they just get it right. Do not run away, sir. I'm going to get his leg. Yeah, right leg. Bring him down. This poppycock, rubbish. And unfortunately, I think we need to just educate people a little bit more to say, well, the best thing that you could do is to just stop running away from cops. Stop fighting them. And you'll get none of this. None of it. But I think we've bred a certain... It's not a generation, because my kids are 21. They wouldn't dream of it. They wouldn't dream of being rude to anyone, let alone a copper. It's just not... Would you treat them like any human being? And if they felt that they were hard done by something, there's no way they'd start calling them a pig and shouting in their face, because guess what they think might happen? Is this unreasonable to think like this? Strange. I don't know. There's no answer at all. So I think, Scorpio, I do feel bad for officers who shot him. There's a lot of drama against the police quite recently. It's off-putting for the personal sometimes. but it won't stop me. Good. And I think that's the key thing. And I talk about a lot of the human side of things, the thinking about things in that book as well. It's just my general experiences, what I found, and how I cope with certain things, how I cope with dealing with 150 fatal road traffic collisions and looking in the eyes of a lot of dead people and then staying relatively sane. And also with the farms training, exhausting training, stressful training, with lots of hiccups and disappointments along the way. You just got to give it another go, haven't you? Here we go. Police officer Ben Harry, as an unarmed British cop, armed with only pava, baton. So pava is CS spray, what was pepper spray. Pava, baton, and cuffs. How would you take down a violent knife-wielding loon? Space is ideal because a lot of the time what we say is send unarmed officers to these incidents, but if they're contained in a flat and you've got no one else in there or whatever, then just stand back and just report back. Report back to people that are coming in. The same as civilians if you're witness. If they've got a knife, don't be a hero. You'll be a dead hero. You'll be remembered for a week and then you'll be forgotten. So don't do that. But stand back, report back, 999, this is what's happening. He's walking along, he's dressed in this. He's now ranting and raving, he's got a knife. I'm just giving it, and giving that update is invaluable. All right, because they can get the CCTV to come in, or ARVs come up. They've got a really good briefing, and they can take him out very quickly. You know, that might be just be jumping on him, baton gun. It could be taser or whatever. And as a last resort, would be the Glock. So if you can, now it's your choice. I would say, what would I do if there was someone with a knife and they were, stabbing lots of people? That's your choice what you try to do. But the chances are you are going to fail. My personal decision, I probably wouldn't stand back and watch that happen. Got to give it a go, aren't you? But it's the first thing you do though is just think, what am I going to achieve? What am I going to prevent, sort of thing. So if I just stand back, maybe just negotiate from a distance. Firearms, you want hard cover, ballistic cover. You just want to stay right back and don't bother negotiating because they'll just point something at you and something will go bang and that sort of thing. But luckily, it's very rare, very rare. But use your nugget, to pass back that information, because a lot of the information we get is where the phone's put down again and then people have moved and the subject's moved and it's out-of-date information. Okay, do you think that what is taking place is the reason why police are becoming disrespected, such as unprofessional behaviour? I don't quite know the second part. If you're saying, I think the narrative that's coming over about policing and all the protests that seem to be acceptable, and then you get a protester with a bitten leg complaining that the dog shouldn't have bit her. Well, dogs are on the lead. You don't get so near to the dog. The dogs aren't deployed unless there's serious risk of violence. If you want to clear an area, get the hell out of the way. Don't start baiting the cops because your leg will get chewed. Grow up, get used to it, and learn from your mistakes. It's unfortunate. Nobody wants permanent injuries or whatever, but the rules are simple. You've been plenty of warning. You don't have to be there. I didn't get my leg bitten by a police dog because I don't shout at angry police dogs. Simple as that. Do you think what is taking place is right? So yeah, it's not helping, and this unrealistic expectation because let's be directed by those threatening riots. Let's all try to play it down. In which case you're undermining your police service, the people in the police service. You will always get your ones where your police officers are out of order and they need to be dealt with. There's no argument there. All right, there's no argument. Simple. I saw this one. Yeah, I really want to be a police officer, but last week I watched a man have CPR done on him. Kind of shook me up and was really hard to watch. Does this sound like a problem? No, it won't. It's not nice. I've done CPR on 2 people. One survived, one died. And usually they'll die unless you're with them within 6 minutes, but you would go for it anyway. You lose 20% of survival every minute. So when somebody looks dead, they probably are, you need to start getting CPR. So if you're not into CPR, do your training, because you never know. It might be you, it might be a relative, it might be your granddad in years to come. And you can save their life, especially if you literally see them drop almost, It's amazingly successful if that's the case, or very much more successful. No, it's sort of those things you get on. You do the training, you get scenarios, you do your CPR, it becomes quite habit sort of things, especially in the ALVs, because the training's a lot more and you go to lots of road traffic collisions. It does, don't feel bad for being nervous and feeling as if, would I be able to do that? You will get better with it. But isn't it funny how no one was saying kill the pigs? Funny that, isn't it? Yeah. Lots of people watching this gang crime, murder, black on black, police officers doing their best, quite rightly, to try to save this man. And I believe it was unsuccessful. So tragic circumstances, because there's families involved, there's victims involved. But funnily enough, the police are let to do their job there. No one's shouting in their face, abusive. You know, if this is the real people, and if these police officers were really that racist, that divisive, do you think they would have said, well, I don't really want to get involved in CPR because, no, they run to it quite rightly, and they get elbow deep, quite frankly, because these are normal people, human beings trying to do a job. And yeah, you can tell I'm a little bit annoyed tonight. I haven't had any beer. I'm a bit annoyed tonight about this freaking narrative being pushed out all the time. But look, getting one incident of a bad policing, and it's like the whole place is full of bad cops. Is not the case. Okay, when it comes to physical confrontation, do the taller, muscular officers have an easier time in your experience? No, to be honest, I'm totally convinced with female officers as well, can get a real hold of a situation where the men have failed, quite frankly. You just got to play it. Does this work? No, this doesn't work. Bad cop, good cop is the thing. I talk about that in there. It's completely genuine. Whoever's first is having to say, oi, sir, stop doing what you're doing. Oh, you're the police, you're the police. And then your mate will say, come on, my friend, just come over here. And then they go, yeah, well, he's all right. You're an idiot. And you just let them go there because it's worked. Good cops come in afterwards. So you're not being a bad cop, but they think you're a bad cop because it's your first reaction sort of thing. So it's the sort of thing as well, if somebody, they're not going to, especially when they've got friends, they don't want their ego hurt by being intimidated by the cops. But if sometimes a female officer, and they've got any iota of respect for her, for being a female, because they've all got mums and sisters, right? Sometimes that can be very effective. There's other female officers who are far more having a fight than the bloke next to me. Less said about that. So no, generally physical confrontation, all that, you would judge it. I mean, I'm only 12 stone. I'm 6 foot half inch, 12 stone. For me, I found confidence. Voice was the best weapon. It's like I've got a loud gob. It's like, gentlemen, and I would, I'm sort of polite because it knocks them for six. I don't know what, And it's like, gentlemen, will you do as you're told? Just sit there and then I bring it down. Right, should we start again? Right, this is what's going to happen and blah, blah, blah. And so you bang, shotgun first of all, bring it right down and say, right, should we start again? And, and it's a really good method, but it takes experience, takes practice. Nobody actually trains you that. But it's those things that you sort of learn so you can avoid at any time being into a physical fight. And at the end of the day, if there was a 7-foot guy saying, I'm going to rip your head off, taser, and I'd be quite within, why should I get injured by this guy who's already told me he's going to rip my head off? Why should I get injured? I've used reasonable force because he's got no lasting injuries whatsoever. He's got no injuries. He's down. He can get cuffed. That's the way it should be. But if that was seen on a video, he just tasered him for no reason because they haven't heard. Would you like to? There's a 7-foot guy, 18 stone, with a criminal record for violence, GBH intent, and it's you and him. Crack on. Are you going to have... Well, I'll just put a notional fight up before he separates my head from my shoulders. No. You're going to taser him. Perfectly reasonable to do that. So that's what I think physical confrontation are like. We got 11 minutes. I always start thinking, I'll do half an hour, because there's not a lot to talk about today, and we've got lots of things. Do armed officers ever do traffic stops? Right. Stops on unarmed call-outs, or is it just call-out? Depending on what force you're in, but all of them will be capable. Ultimately, controllers on the desk. We've got something going on. No resources available. There's an ARV around the corner. ARV, can you have a look? Yeah, it's good. They're in non-authorised mode. It means they don't get all the weapons out the boot and stuff. They're safe. And yeah, and that's it. Especially my force is dual rolled, so it was like roads policing and armed response. Lots of violence with knives would be an armed response. Because there's no guarantees with knives, I get various different stories with the Met on that side of things. There's always a complaint that they should be authorising jobs when they shouldn't, but they should, but where they're not. But at least, you've got a Glock on you. If it goes really tits up, you've got that sort of immediate self-defence. But you shouldn't have to rely on that. Yeah, so we do. I went to domestics. Loads of domestics. Load of disturbances. And yeah, because you're too much of an expensive commodity to drive around waiting for a job that might happen once a week, sort of thing. And you've got a lot of experience because we do all the scenarios, because we did all the, you've got a lot more training than response as far as building searches and things like this and vehicle conception. So you've got to put that to use. You don't need to have your gun out. Hi Harry, Sam. When you became a sergeant, you had to leave the ARC. Yeah, I see. How did you rejoin? And did you have to redo the training? Ah, right. The ARV, that's meant to be. Yes, at that point, there's a period of time where I had left actually for nearly 3 years, I think it was. So I had to do like 4 requalification sessions. So it's not just shooting, that's all scenarios. And they signed me off, said, yeah, good, and I went straight back in. It's a little bit different now. It's a shorter period of time. And if you haven't basically got enough scores on your doors for each skill, then you have to wait. And a lot of officers, if they're sick, they then have to go back on. It might be an initial course, training course, to think I need to go to just get that signed off. So it is a lot of pressure because if you go sick, you're struck off. You're not out on training anymore because you've basically got a set period of time where your building search lasts, your qualification shoot lasts and things. And it's a very short time, so I would have had to do the whole course again, which I know some people who have. It's going to be easier the second time, but it's, because you're familiar with the circumstances with the training, it's not going to be so wide-eyed, but it's still, blimey, that is pressure. This is ever do travel, right? Okay. If you're in London and you've ever seen a foaming... Oh, yeah. If you're in London and you ever see a foaming chest stab wound, plastic card, bus pass, etc. on the bad boy, yeah, you're potentially civil life. Yeah, I mean... And that's why I still have in the car, actually. They're called Russell bandages or whatever. What are they called? These should be Asherman seals. But yeah, you can... Technically, I mean, it's never really good, but yeah, put a credit card on and all that, especially when there's when you stab into the lungs and your air is coming out and you're going to deflate the lung and that can be fatal. So it's just better to... the ARVs as well, what we had at one point was you got Asherman seals or Russell, whatever they're called, to put on the main foaming where the air's coming out to stop the collapsing. And then we had gaffer tape, literally plug all the other wounds to stop that. Because some colleague of mine went to one with just 10 stab wounds in the chest in a domestic stabbing. What percentage of the calls that you responded to did you use the taser? We were so all the authorised firearms jobs where we are deploying from the car, you would have overt, so you would be overt. There would be ready to pull the trigger. Big ones you might have a safety on, but when you're actually searching, you'd have safety off. So literally a pull of a trigger. Everything's loaded and ready to go. I say your Glock it's got safety procedures in the holster. I'm not going to tell you about for obvious reasons, but you're not going to just go there and grab it and pull it out. But basically you could have 4 or 5 jobs in 1 week and then not have one the next week, where you're going in. And I mean, that might just be to get an authorization. There need to be some sort of corroboration, or someone has seen it that you can trust. Like, I'm ex-military, my name is so, I live at this address. There is a man who has just put a gun in his car, under his seat or whatever. I've just seen as I was walking by, he's looking really furtive and whatever, and I'm reporting it to you, right? So that would be a vehicle interception, and it would be a call out, and then you'd go from there. So making sure that vehicle interception was in the safest place possible, away from other people, if you possibly could. And that you're not necessarily, there are circumstances, again, I won't go into, where you would rush in, and you've seen on TV and all that, where they smash windows and things like certain circumstances like that. And then certain circumstances where you say, well, actually, we're just going to hold back and we're just going to challenge. They can't drive the car out anymore, and, we can go from there. So there's various scenarios that you can go to. 4 minutes left. Let's go for this. Right. Do police in the UK use 40 cal or Glock 17? We do Glock 17 is what we do. Americans get very upset. I wouldn't shoot chickens with that stuff. I don't know in America, but in the UK our rounds are soft point, so they fragment. To stop going through the person we're intending to stop, and then through someone else. So if you're in war, against the Geneva Convention, so in war you want a full metal jacket, so you want the copper round to go through somebody, and then out through them, and then hit his mate. So now you've got 4 people on each limb to take 2 people out. That's 10 people off the battlefield. Hooray! Whereas we don't want that, because it's a lot of paperwork. So if we shoot somebody, the bullet then fragments inside, and the downside of that is it rips into lots of vital organs, and they very rarely survive. Russell chest seal. Thank you, anonymous user, for helping me get out of my turmoil. No. So basically, a lot of the time, people say, look, I'm going through a divorce, having a stressful time at the moment. So they will still do the training, but they need to just come offline for a minute, because they've got all hell going through their mind at the moment. They're off train, so they just go in the training. So they're keeping up, so when they are considered fit and healthy to go back online. And a lot of people then, some people just say, do you know what, I need time off for a little bit, off firearms for a little bit, and then they will go on the non-armed side of policing. They'll do the traffic work in Devon and Cornwall, for example. They'd go on to the traffic for a bit, and then when that initial period is over and that they feel safe, and the instructors feel they're safe, the bosses, the occupational health say, yeah, okay, good to go again. All right, so it's healthy that that's the case. No, I've never done an ambulance service ride along. They work far too hard for me. I had ambulance with me. A few ride-alongs with me, but no, to be honest, that's the thing, I was selfish. I just wanted to go home and do nothing. I didn't want to go out in it. You see, it wouldn't thrill me going through a town in an ambulance with the blue lights, because I've done it for 30 years, not in an ambulance, in something much faster. So it was, it was a little bit, but I've got one of my best friends is, two are learning to be paramedics, but they've actually been alongside technicians and been alongside paramedics for a long time. And through my work I do and through the Learn to Live I know quite a few number of ambulance top people. Oh my God, unsung heroes. Yes, Devon and Cornwall was doing G7, so I will be aware because I did NATO in Wales and I did lots of conferences on VIP in London, so I know London pretty well now, the police station's there. I did a convoy drop-off outside number 10. I think that's not bad for a Cornish lad, is it? Armed to the gills. But it's all good fun, all various experiences you have. Oh yes, right. I'm sorry, Youssef. If a firearms officer was fired their weapon, are they on hold pending an investigation? Yes, on the firearms side of things. And I think that's healthy for both the firearms officer and anyone else, the public. It just gives a little bit of time out. Let's reassess. But again, they do their training. They're with their colleagues. they are then put on other policing duties. There's no point in suspending them from the police. You know, these things drag on forever, and you've lost a very good officer there. I would say if it was a blatant, this isn't a good one, which luckily has never happened in my experience, in my force, but then they would probably, you know, say we need to suspend them off work completely, sort of thing, you know. It's sort of common sense, isn't it? It works well, I think. I went to California, I went to Los Angeles and Long Beach, had a ride along with some officers in Long Beach. Do you think there is different police culture in the US in regards to the use of lethal force? I feel like it's taken a lot more seriously in the UK. I think we have to look both sides of the coin here. We have the luxury in the UK to have very few cops murdered by civilians, right? By whoever. Very few. All right? And that is a luxury the Americans don't have. If you look at the figures of how many American cops have been shot dead every year, suddenly that changes the goalposts. Suddenly, every job you're going to, you're thinking, is this the one? Is this the one? There are guns everywhere, left, right and centre. Everyone's got guns. You're at a protest and you've got some guys with guns at the front, perfectly legally. It's a frightening place. All I can say, and the detective that I was with said, yeah, if I carry my badge, I carry my gun. And the gun. He was in a suit and he was in a thing. And then I went in uniformed and I had a patrol with them. And all I can say is they were thoroughly decent people. Cops are cops are cops, wherever you are. Nice guys and girls. Thoroughly decent people. Like everywhere, you're going to get your not so decent people. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end it there. Thank you very much indeed. Just to let you know on that very quickly, this one here. If someone emails on this, I will get them for $9.99, because I get £3 from that because I have to buy these at £4, and then you've got £2 shipping or whatever. I will do a signed copy. Yeah, and then there's a commission from PayPal or whatever. Signed copy, personal copy. So any gifts to people or just fancy it for yourself, just let me know the name you want it. But if you email me on firearms plural and fatals plural at gmail.com, email me on there, or follow me on Twitter is the @X. That's wrong. Lower score ARV, lower score sergeant. All right. X lower score ARV, lower score SGT. Follow me on Twitter. You can DM me on all that. My DMs are open. And then please subscribe to this. We're doing really well. I think I'm nearly 3,000. I think that could be completely wrong, but that's amazing. The more I can do, the more followers and subscribers, the more this then goes out, and then hopefully I can get into more and get some decent guests and things like that. Otherwise, follow me on Frontline Chat on Saturday, not this Saturday, because Duke of Edinburgh, God rest his soul, and his funeral. But otherwise than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being so patient with me again. See you next week.